You were taught to be liked, trained to be accepted, conditioned to shrink yourself until you could fit into their approval. Every decision, every move, calculated through the filter of what will they think. You became a prisoner of applause, a hostage to validation, and without even realizing it, you traded your power for permission. But now you're waking up. You're beginning to see the lie. Approval is a cage disguised as comfort. And if you keep chasing it, you'll spend your whole life walking in circles, never crossing the line into who you were born to become. Because here's the truth, the more powerful you become, the less approval you'll get. Not because you're wrong, but because you're breaking patterns they've been too afraid to confront. Your growth offends them, your silence triggers them, your ambition shines a light on their laziness, and they'll do anything to dim it. That's why they laugh at your goals, that's why they roll their eyes at your discipline, that's why they say you've changed. Of course, you've changed. You're not begging anymore. You're not waiting for someone to tell you now it's okay to win. You're done being polite about your purpose. And the moment you stop asking for their approval, you become dangerous. You start choosing truth over tradition. You start making moves they can't predict because they don't understand someone who doesn't need praise to function. That's rare, that's threatening, but that's exactly where your power lies, in not needing them, in not chasing them, in knowing that everything you need to succeed is already inside you, not in their hands, not in their words, not in their likes or applause or acceptance. You are no longer available for small thinking, shallow praise, or conditional love. You've graduated from all of that. You see, approval feels good for a moment, but it's fragile, addictive, it owns you. It keeps you editing yourself to stay palatable, keeps you dimming your light to make others feel comfortable. But your greatness was never meant to be digestible. It was meant to be undeniable. You don't rise to be liked. You rise to lead, and real leaders walk alone at first. They get misunderstood, rejected, laughed at, but they keep walking, and eventually the same people who ignored them start quoting them. The same ones who doubted them start imitating them. Because results don't need approval, they demand respect. So if you're waiting for someone to clap for you, stop. If you're waiting for someone to believe in you before you take the first step, stop. If you think success begins the day they finally say, "You're good enough, wake up," that day may never come, and it doesn't need to, because you can still win, you can still rise, you can still dominate the very game they said you weren't built for. Not by convincing them, but by committing to yourself, ruthlessly, relentlessly, without apologies, because once you stop needing their yes, the only voice left that matters is your own. You don't need their approval to win. You need courage, you need clarity, you need consistency. The crowd doesn't give you that, your discipline does. You win by doing the work when no one's watching, by mastering your craft while they scroll, by staying silent when your ego wants to scream. That's how you build power, not by being popular, but by becoming potent, quiet, focused, unshakable. That's the kind of power they can't cancel, can't ignore, can't stop. That's the kind of power you're building now in the dark, where no one claps, no one notices, but everything changes. There is nothing more unstoppable than a person who no longer fears rejection. Once you stop needing approval, you stop hesitating, you stop explaining, you stop diluting your truth to make others feel safe. You just move, you just build, you just become, and ironically, the moment you no longer need their respect, that's when they start giving it. But by then, it's too late. You're already in motion, you're already elevated, and they'll never be able to say they made you because they weren't there. They didn't clap. They didn't support, they just watched silently from behind. So burn the need, burn the craving. Burn the illusion that someone else's approval is the key to your greatness. It's not. It never was. You were made for more, and you don't need a single hand raised in applause to prove that. Your victory is inevitable if you stop asking for permission to pursue it. They won't clap for you while you're building. They'll wait until it's safe, until everyone else sees it first, until the risk of believing in you is gone. That's how people are. They don't believe in blueprints, they believe in skyscrapers. They don't see the vision, they wait for the results. And that's exactly why you have to learn to build without their cheers, to push without their encouragement, to grow without their validation. Because if you need applause to move, you'll never move far. They only clap once it's easy to stand beside you. But you don't need noise, you need fire. You'll spend months, maybe years, being laughed at, being overlooked, being dismissed, not because you're weak, but because you're different. Because you don't follow the script, because your ambition makes them uncomfortable, and instead of confronting their own mediocrity, they'll pretend yours doesn't exist. You'll hear, "You're doing too much. Who do you think you are? Just be realistic." That's what people say when they see you stretching beyond the limits they settled for. And if you're not careful, you'll shrink yourself just to keep their comfort. But let me tell you something real. Their comfort is not your calling. They won't support you until it costs them nothing, until it benefits them to say they knew you. But by then, you'll have already outgrown them. Because while they were watching, you were working. While they were laughing, you were learning. While they were doubting, you were developing. The silence they gave you became the space you needed to become untouchable. Because silence isn't empty, it's loaded with clarity, with hunger, with transformation. You didn't just survive their neglect, you weaponized it. You used every no, every ghost, every dismissal as fuel, and now you're building something they can't ignore. See, the problem is they need a crowd to believe. You don't. They need proof to move. You don't. They need recognition to stay motivated. You don't. You've become a different breed, someone who keeps showing up without a stage, someone who keeps grinding without being seen, someone who doesn't need claps to know they're going to win. That's rare. That's terrifying, because you're not driven by noise, you're driven by legacy. And legacy doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence. It comes with dark mornings, with unseen sacrifices, with nights full of doubt where you still chose to keep going. That's the work no one sees, and that's the work that makes you immortal. So when they ignore you, when they laugh, when they act like you're invisible, let them. That silence is your ally. It means you're still dangerous, still becoming, still unpredictable, because the moment they see you, they'll try to shape you. The moment they validate you, they'll try to contain you. But when you build in silence, you stay free, you stay focused, you stay powerful. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them a show. You owe yourself the truth, and the truth is, their approval was never the point. The point was becoming so undeniable that even their silence couldn't stop you. Let them stay quiet. Let them sleep, let them doubt, because the day will come when they'll look back and realize they missed it. They missed your rise, they missed your evolution, they missed their chance to be part of something real, and you'll already be gone, already built, already above the noise, above the need, above their reach. That's the power of not waiting for applause. You get to write your own ending. The voices around you are loud, always have been. They tell you who you should be, how far you can go when it's time to stop. They speak from fear, from failure, from a place inside them that gave up long ago. And if you're not careful, those voices will become your own. That's what happens when you live for their approval. You forget how to hear yourself. You forget how to trust the whisper inside you, the one that's quiet but relentless, the one that says, keep going, even if they don't get it. Especially if they don't get it. Because the truth is their voices are often louder than your vision, but never more powerful. You just haven't given your vision a chance to speak long enough without interruption. You've been drowning in their doubt, carrying their opinions like chains, seeking their permission to step into your own life. But this isn't their life, it's yours, and their approval is irrelevant to your outcome. Their validation can't build your future. Their applause can't fuel your discipline. Their opinion didn't pay your dues, didn't fight your battles, didn't bleed for your dreams, so why are you handing them the pen to write your story? You don't need their permission to believe in what you already know deep down. Your intuition is not a committee decision. It's sacred. And if you ever want to do something real in this life, something massive, something that echoes beyond your name, you must stop consulting the fears of people who have never lived their purpose. You must silence the noise, not with anger, but with action. Every time you execute without asking, you reclaim your identity. Every time you choose your path without polling for approval, you become more of who you are and less of what they tried to make you. Because if you keep living for their voices, you'll die with your own still buried inside. Your dreams will rot inside the cage of their comfort zone. You'll trade your greatness for likes, your soul for praise, your path for popularity, and by the time you realize what you gave up, it'll be too late to get it back. That's the danger of waiting to be accepted. Your life passes by while you're busy begging to be seen. But understand this, people don't need to believe in you for you to succeed. They just need to watch, and they will when you've already become undeniable. Your vision was never designed to be understood by the average. Stop expecting average minds to see what only extraordinary hearts can feel. Some people can only process what they've already seen. You're building what's never existed before, and that's scary not just for you, but for them too. Your courage reminds them of their cowardice. Your progress reminds them of their procrastination. So they'll mock, minimize, question, but all of it is projection, not truth. And you must be strong enough to let their voices fade into static, background noise behind the only thing that matters, your inner fire, because your validation must come from your vision, not their voices. That's what separates leaders from followers, warriors from watchers, legends from spectators. You don't need the crowd, you need clarity, and clarity doesn't shout, it whispers, it's quiet. It waits for you to get still, to tune everything else out, and when you do, you'll hear it, the real you, the one that never needed a spotlight, the one that doesn't chase attention, the one that isn't desperate for applause. That version of you is the most dangerous thing in the world. Because when you finally know who you are, no one can ever use your doubt against you again. So ignore the noise, listen inward, move with purpose, speak with silence. Let your execution scream so loud they have no choice but to hear it even after they refuse to listen for years. That's the irony. The moment you stop trying to be heard is the moment the world can no longer ignore you. They told you to be humble, to wait your turn, to stay quiet until you're invited. But here's what they never told you: the world doesn't hand out invitations. It watches, it waits, it tests, it pushes back to see if you'll fold. And the ones who win are not the ones who ask politely. They're the ones who take what they've earned in silence. Not through noise, not through approval, not through validation, but through relentless discipline. Through obsession with mastery, because at the end of the day, you don't win by being liked. You win by being undeniable. People don't follow the loudest, they follow the most consistent, the one who shows up. Every day, especially the days no one's clapping, especially when it hurts, especially when it looks like nothing is working. And that's what separates you now. That's what makes your silence dangerous. You've stopped chasing applause and started chasing mastery. You've stopped trying to impress and started trying to evolve. You're not in this for likes. You're not in this for approval. You're in this to become so good, so powerful, that even the people who doubted you are forced to sit in the shadow of your results. Mastery is lonely. Mastery is dark. It doesn't look good on Instagram. It's not glamorous. It's you in the early mornings. It's you when your body wants to sleep, but your purpose won't let you. It's you when the world moves on and forgets your name, but you keep showing up anyway. Because you're not building for today, you're building for forever, that kind of growth. It isn't loud. It's buried in repetition, in silence, in failure, in refinement. Over and over again until your craft becomes a weapon, until your mindset becomes armor. until your presence commands respect not because you demand it, but because you've earned it. And while the world is addicted to performance, you've chosen progress. While they chase fame, you chase form. While they shout for attention, you stay in the lab, in the gym, in the dark, creating something that will speak for itself. That's the power of choosing mastery over popularity. When you master your focus, you no longer react, you move with intent. When you master your emotions, you stop breaking under pressure, you build through it. When you master your time, you stop being busy and start becoming legendary. No one tells you that the price of greatness is boredom, repetition, the mundane, doing the same thing again and again while everyone else chases the next trend. But that's the secret. While they zigzag, you dig in. You go deep, you refine, and suddenly, one day, the results are so sharp, so impossible to ignore, that even the loudest critics are forced into silence. You didn't beat them with words. You beat them with excellence. That's what mastery is. That's why you don't need their approval, because approval is fleeting, but skill is forever. You won't be remembered because they liked you. You'll be remembered because you became something they could never be. Unshaken, focused, built, you rose without applause. You sacrificed without recognition. You became what they only dreamed of becoming, and you did it without their permission. That's what wins. That's what lasts. And that's why every step you take in silence is more powerful than 1,000 cheers in the crowd. There comes a moment when you stop waiting, when you stop explaining, when you stop asking for a seat at their table and decide to build your own. That moment is the death of your old self, the version of you that needed permission, that softened your truth, that wore masks to stay loved. You bury that version, you honor it, but you bury it, because the version that's rising now doesn't need to be understood, doesn't need to be liked, doesn't need to fit in. It was never meant to. Some souls were born to stand alone, to lead alone, to win alone, and yours is one of them. You've learned the cost of approval, how it drains your spirit, how it changes your decisions, how it keeps you small. They never told you that chasing their applause would come at the expense of your authenticity, that in trying to belong, you'd lose pieces of yourself. But you know now, and with that awareness comes power, the kind of power that's quiet, but unshakable. You don't owe them comfort. You don't owe them explanation. You owe yourself liberation. And liberation doesn't come from applause, it comes from alignment. When your actions match your vision, and your vision no longer needs their acceptance. The greatest lie they sold you was that you needed them to win, that your worth came from being seen. But now you see the truth. Being unseen was your advantage. It gave you space, it gave you time, it gave you hunger, because there's something ruthless about someone who's had to build without help. There's a silence inside them that's not empty, it's focused. A fire that doesn't flicker in public, but burns hotter in solitude. You've felt that fire, you've fed it, and now you carry it everywhere. They don't have to see it, they'll feel it in your work. In your presence, in your victory. The world doesn't reward the loudest, it rewards the most committed. And commitment doesn't need a crowd, it needs a decision to keep going when it's easier to stop. A decision to believe when no one else does. A decision to bet on yourself when no one's clapping, sharing, or watching. Because that's where power lives, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, in the hours you suffer in silence, in the moments you refuse to give up, in the darkness you walk through while others wait for the light. That's where champions are made. That's where legacies are forged. You no longer need to be discovered. You've discovered yourself. And now that you know who you are, their opinions become background noise, their doubts become fuel, their absence becomes a gift, because it taught you how to move in silence, how to build without praise, how to become the kind of force that doesn't seek validation, it commands respect, not through arrogance, but through results, not through noise, but through presence, the kind of presence that says, I didn't need your permission, I built it anyway. So walk. Without their applause, without their likes, without their fake love, Walk like someone who's already arrived, even when no one's watching, because eventually they will watch. And when they do, it won't be because you begged for it, it'll be because you became too powerful to ignore. That's what happens when you stop waiting for approval and start acting like it was never necessary to begin with.